The other thing that I wanted to talk about today was lessons from my 40 years. And I really kind of want to start at the halfway mark at 20. Because the truth is, I don't really feel like I started to get to know who I was until my 20s. Mid-20s, really. But I guess about 21 was when I had my first kind of shock to my system that changed my life. And I've told the long version of the story, but the short version is when I was in Turkey having a near-death / crazy adventure on a snowy mountaintop. I had a peak experience, something I could only describe as a spiritual moment where my mind went blank for a period of 5-10 minutes, and then once I came back to my consciousness, I felt like there was an answer implanted in my head, not like told to me, but just something I had an understanding that there is no need to seek a purpose in life, that the purpose of life is to experience the world, the cosmos, experience. That is the purpose. And it was incredibly soothing to me to hear that, and incredibly, it released so much of the anxiety I had about what am I doing, why am I here, what's the point. I stopped asking that question. At the same time, I didn't have a real strong sense of who I was and what I wanted and what would make me feel good. I did let go of that general sense of angst about life, the existential angst of life. That kind of was gone. But I still struggled with who I was. So then the next big break for me in terms of my awareness of myself and the world was a few years later as I started to get involved with the internet and fell into that as a process of really surrendering to the current of the universe. All these plans I had about going to grad school and being a psychologist and doing all these things, I let go of it all. That's been a huge lesson for me through my life. There's been a lot of things that I've quit. And my parents and other people have been like, oh no, don't be a quitter. But I think there's something really key to the idea that the phrase winners never quit is wrong. Winners quit all the time. Winners know when to quit the right things. You can't just stick with something because you said you'd do it. That is a common mistake that governments and people, I think, tend to make. That doesn't mean quit as soon as it gets hard, but it does mean if you are feeling like this is wrong, this does not feel like you anymore, this is not going in the direction that feels right, then time to get off that path and find the current again and get right back in alignment. So I quit my path to psychology, or maybe I just took a roundabout way, because my original goal was to become a counselor in the ways of self-actualization and helping people to kind of evolve, not from damaged to healthy, but from healthy to self-actualized. That was what drew me to psychology, and I realized that that was not the direction that my career path was going, so I tried something else. And it's funny now, 20 years later, in some ways that is what my career path is taking me to. So maybe it's not about quitting, maybe it's about surrendering and allowing the universe to take you there by its path. And so through the internet, I ended up first trying to entertain people and tell funny stories, and then started to tell more and more personal stories. And that was life-changing as well, because I found that the more I shared of my vulnerability, the more it allowed people in to love me, and the more connected I felt to people, and the more empowered I felt. So these acts that I thought would make me feel weak and vulnerable actually made me feel powerful and connected. And I started to connect with amazing people. One of those amazing people actually invited me to Burning Man, which was the next big life-changing experience for me. Because out in the desert, I had this powerful experience of what I was starting to see on the internet, which is that, whoa, the ways you can live, the opportunities of life were way broader than I thought. I thought you had white-collar jobs, blue-collar jobs, or stay-at-home parent, you know? And Burning Man exposed me to these vast, exciting, crazy, weird lifestyles that people had chosen and were happy. People that had said, oh, I'm not trying to satisfy the desires of, you know, the white picket fence or whatever it is. And that was huge in seeing that life opportunities were far more vast than I ever knew. The grooves that I'd been taught were just that, grooves. But what we're dealing with is not a bunch of grooves. We're dealing with a flat, almost limitless expanse of paths and opportunities and meanderings, non-linear bouncing arounds. And then part of that process of seeing all these opportunities was learning that there is a big difference between values and goals that you are taught, whether overtly or subtly through your socialization, through media, through education, and the values and goals that come from a sense of source. And the sense of source things are not so overt. They take a lot of and often they're quieter. The loud messages of socialization and education and all these things are hard to see through and listen beneath, which is why things like Burning Man and communities that support that and kind of quiet or keep you isolated from the mass media stuff are sometimes mandatory, so that you can start to hear these quiet heart songs and try to give them strength and give them volume, volume, volume. And then the next thing that was hugely significant was the chapter I shared with Grandpa. And there was a lot of things that were amazing and wonderful about that. One was learning how to approach death without fear. But the main one was gratitude. And while he told stories about all sorts of experiences, the core message from Grandpa was love and gratitude. And he would see things and notice things that were so subtle. You know, every time he would have a meal at his cafeteria, he would just light up as they would describe the dessert options for him. He loved to have the waitress list them off whenever he had a new person visit him. Like, listen, can you believe this? We've got all these flavors of ice cream every day. Ah. And that way of living, that constant recalibrating so that you stop taking things for granted, so that you start seeing the gifts in everything, whether it is a leaf or a child or a book or a sunset, is life-changing. Because when you start to go down that path of appreciation, there is no end to what you can appreciate. So that was huge for me. The other part of Grandpa that was so powerful to me was the way he embraced Burning Man for me, and the way he also saw that this thing in the desert he didn't quite understand, he recognized that it was a holy, spiritual, connecting, loving place for me, and gave me sort of a permission and a endorsement to pursue, you know, my spiritual self in this community. And that's a path I continue to walk with honor and humility. And it is through that path that I began to really understand the gifting principles of Burning Man, which has become a guiding force and principle of my life. Because from the place of gifting, from the seeing the world not as a number of opportunities to transact and, you know, exchange, but seeing the world as full of opportunities to give, to light people up, and in doing so, light myself up. Well, that changed everything. Because then the paradigm of the capitalist world doesn't really work that well. I still use the capitalist world. I still require resources. I still like to have resources and nice things, but from outside of the game of commerce, understanding that there is nothing that I can buy that makes me feel as good as lighting someone up, as giving to someone and making their day, their life, their moment a little brighter. And that has been growing in me and evolving into me, so that a process that began as sort of some would see as a selfish process of trying to understand self-love, trying to spend a lot of energy on myself, stripping away the false beliefs, the socialized ideas, to find out what is the core. That process, combined with gratitude, combined with gifting, combined with all of these things I learned along the way, has brought me to a place where the things that bring me joy, the things that make me selfishly happy and excited and vibrant, more and more are the things that are selfless, the things that allow others to be brightened, gifting, loving, helping, not from a place of that is my responsibility, but from a place of that feels good, that feels right. So this selfish service to Source has been, I guess, the biggest surprise for me in terms of the lessons that keep piling on. And so that very early spiritual, the purpose of life is to experience, as it's been added to and added to and added to, it's gotten a little bit more complicated, not complicated, simple, I guess, just more deeper understanding that it is to experience as well as enhance, as well as contribute. I think that to the point that I'm growing into a belief that the recipe for joy is to create beautiful things, share beautiful things, and appreciate beautiful things. And beautiful things are anything that lights up people, opens their hearts, gives them opportunities, gives them freedom, makes them joyful. And in doing that, that is the recipe for joy within. Thank you for contributing to my immense internal joy. It is an honor to share this moment. It is an honor to share this planet. It is an honor to share this now moment. Thank you. Namaste.
You only live once. Enjoy the color.